Growing up, political cartoons seemed to be a dying art. The convoluted pictures with titles displaying what each element represented looked like something from a forgotten black and white era. But the internet tends to add a fresh spin on things, such as the case with Stonetoss, the internet's most infamous cartoonist. His controversial takes have made him a household name on sites such as Reddit and Twitter, leading to detractors carrying a burning hatred for the mysterious man behind the bright illustrations that have been seen by tens of millions. But why exactly is Stonetoss so divisive? And what is the story of the man behind the account? Well, after a lot of digging, I'll share my findings today, with the story being a lot more intriguing than most may believe. The first known Stonetoss comic was published on his website back in July of 2017. It had been made a month before alongside his Twitter account, which both became active shortly thereafter. These comics were quite ideologically driven, frequently expressing far-right beliefs. The goal was, in his own words, to provide a psychic chemotherapy against mental cancer of liberalism and soy-based dieting. This caused him to quickly become known for sneaking in themes of racism, homophobia, and other forms of bigotry into the comics. Many have since been deleted, like this strip about pitbull owners. Careful man, pitbull. Dude, it's not the breed, it's the owner. What's so special about pitbull owners? There's no shortage of anti-Semitism either. Don't let the man control you, just open your mind. Honestly, it seems more likely that prisoners died from insufficient supply lines in war-torn Germany rather than enough delousing chemical to gas 6 million. Shut up! This would become a contentious topic later on as people questioned if he actually believed what he said, or if he was just being an ardent free speech supporting edgelord. But before we go any further in today's video, I just wanted to give a shout out to my sponsor Mando, the world's greatest deodorant brand. I'm not just saying that for this brand deal either. I've used a lot of other aluminum-free deodorants in the past, but I found that the results were subpar to say the least. Mando was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. This is a high-performance whole-body deodorant that you can use and apply everywhere, such as pits, packages, and feet. But with the Mando product line, they truly keep you smelling good all day. Unlike other brands, these products are clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. They have a whole line of soaps, creams, and sprays. Why I personally like it is because their scents Suburban Leather, Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport actually are strong enough to stick around after being applied. They even have an unscented for those that would prefer that. But whenever I use other brands, I feel like the scent just disappears after 30 minutes. And the fact that Mando's cruelty-free, skin-safe, and doesn't stain your clothes are other perks. For a limited time, Mando has a variety of holiday bundles available on their website, so it's a perfect time to stock up on Mando products if you are a new or returning customer. The best part is, if you click on the link down below and use code TGFM at checkout, you'll get $5 off your purchase. On top of that, get free shipping when spending $30 or more. I could go through all his comics that demonstrate this, but the point I'm trying to make is it's generally not something he tried to hide. Daily reminder that the correct response to people accusing someone of being a racist or a Nazi isn't, but what is he really? It's actually, so what? Despite this, it only took 7 months for his account to reach 20,000 followers. These comics spread like wildfire throughout right-wing communities. They quickly became favorites of 4chan's politically incorrect board, the Donalds, as well as sites like the Daily Stormer. Stonetoss filled an important niche which he recognized in an interview later that year. I felt that there was an overabundance of comics and content creators more generally that were too conventional, too politically correct, too safe, and too apologetic for the status quo. The comics are meant to touch subjects that other people can't and won't. This is also where we would first learn more about his background. The artist had been using polls since 2011, slowly adopting the image board's beliefs. It was far from his first venture, having made several viral memes over the years. He also admitted to having several different aliases in the past. Under different monikers, I grew a small following, which was fun to have. Eventually, I decided to formalize the process by doing a webcomic brand. I wanted to expand the genre of edgy 4chan MS Paint images into something for consumption by the wider internet. This is what's important to understand his rapid growth. While unapologetic in his beliefs, it didn't necessarily define his humor. In fact, many of his comics lacked any overt political messages. They were simple enough to stand on their own, using his understanding of what made a good meme. That being said, a lot of them had some level of dog whistle built in, but he was so good at what he did that they would still become popular exploitables. Behold our newest ad campaign. Are you sure this will help us sell more burgers? Burgers? His most notable memes include a comic about foot fetishes called Acquired Tastes, which circulated as a Things I Don't Like macro. This strip depicting a tug-of-war was used for unexpected contradictory alliances. These two strips shown here mocked how frequently Nazi was thrown around online as an insult. Got you. Don't shoot, I'm a Nazi too. Prove it. There are two genders. Phew. It's impressive how effective his comics can be in conveying a point while still being simple and concise, something his opponents quickly recognized. In January of 2019, a subreddit was created called Antifa Stonetoss. They sought to edit his comics with their own messages, while exposing the creator's beliefs. At that point, it was still a debate as to whether or not he was far-right. This ambiguity was the subject of a massive thread called The Definitive Guide to Why Stonetoss is a Nazi. It analyzed all of the recurring themes in his work, as well as his connections to other artists who we'll discuss later on. The effort was popular enough to receive coverage by the Daily Dot. This wasn't the only community dedicated to altering his work either. The sub Stone-Tossing Juice took on a more absurdist approach. They flatly denied having a political motive, stating, "We're just here for the jokes, man." However, the two often overlapped in their sense of humor. The more notable meme to spawn from these communities started with a comic he made about Bitcoin. The strip was published in 2017 and was an early sign of his enthusiasm for crypto-related projects. It's a bubble. It's a bubble. It's a bubble. It's a bubble. Well, in 2021, a user on Antifa Stonetoss altered the final panel to show a crewmate from the indie game Among Us. The speech bubble was changed to simply say Among Us. This started a huge meme, becoming a catchphrase in the irony-centric communities. It got edited further and further into variations so far removed that people often had no idea who the original artist was. One video, which has 4 million views, is about how Among Us backwards sounds like Sugma. This trend led every single one of his other comics to be edited with references to the meme. There was even a mod version made for the rhythm game Friday Night Funkin', which itself has 1.6 million views. With such a bizarre combination, one might expect Stonetoss to be put off by the edits considering it was spread by his detractors. There was even a viral image where he supposedly said, "Please stop putting Among Us in my comics." However, this turned out to be fake, with the artist actually embracing the meme. Fake tweet, you actually do have my express permission to promote my work by reposting edited versions, thanks. In fact, many of those who helped it go viral in the first place came to regret giving him such an insane amount of exposure. Why the fuck are y'all doing this? It's obvious he only profits from this. You're literally helping the Nazi. To a certain degree, I agree with separating an author with their work. But when it comes to actual fascists, then no, they should be silenced. To be honest with you, Amog. Indeed, this virality only seemed to help Stonetoss in the long run. He even sold an NFT by the same name, netting him $7,000. Hey everyone, this guy's a Nazi. Use code AMOGUS for 33% off pebbleyeet.com. At the start of 2020, Stonetoss had just 50,000 followers. A year later, he passed 100K. And by the end of 2021, he was at the cusp of 200,000. He was adept at using his critics to promote himself, even making a video mocking them while asking for donations. It promoted the site ownlibtards.com.
To answer this question, we interviewed two leading scholars in the field of getting mad about harmless cartoons. After we showed him the work of Stonetoss, the overweight critic offered several compelling rebuttals, such as, "That's racist," "That's weird," and "F*** you."
The success of his comics brought a lot of copycats, with many fraternizing around his work. It spawned an entire circle of alternative right-wing cartoonists. The idea of appropriating their humor led to a similar train of thought that went beyond just editing his work.
Because Antifa Stonetoss comics are funny because they're subversions. They're funny, don't get me wrong, they are legitimately funny, but they're funny because they're subversions and because you're familiar with the original. It's fun to take a Nazi's work and make it anti-Nazi. But that's not the same as this making good comics in and of itself. These right here, these Antifa Stonetoss comics, you couldn't make a comic strip with them. You wouldn't be able to effectively propagandize.
That was political streamer and horse lover Vosh, who suggested the left could learn from his rhetoric. This clip alone received 150,000 views on YouTube, inspiring several cartoonists like Breadpains. The problem with many of these left-leaning alternatives is that they suffer from over-explaining the joke, losing the brevity and simplicity of the original. You're on my property, pal. However, I will let you drink if... I don't get it. I don't like explaining things, but since nobody seems to get this one, I'll have to. The guy's dying of thirst in the desert. He finds an oasis, but it turns out to be private property. The private owner allows him to drink, provided the guy becomes the private owner's slave. What's the punchline? Complain about Stonetoss all you want, but he never let his ideology get in the way of a good joke, even if it meant a few people not getting it. But while the leftist alternatives were not nearly as successful, several comics did end up going viral. In 2021, Stonetoss made a post referencing some of Vosh's strangest comments. If you talk about Jews a lot, you're probably a fascist. Anyway, back to the age of consent. This split Antifa Stonetoss in two, with many agreeing with the cartoonist while others refused to cede ground. There was a massive ban wave, causing the mods to fight amongst themselves until the anti-Vosh policy was reversed. The battle to propagandize comics led an animator named Antunes to make an entire game around the concept called Pill Fighters. The roster starred an assortment of political artists, including Stonetoss. This was controversial for a lot of reasons, most unrelated to this video, but it's a good way of demonstrating just how many communities were born out of a single comic strip. Many people who didn't even know who he was started sharing his comics because they were so well spread, only to get backlash and have to delete their post and apologize.
For those of you who don't know, I shared one of his comics. One person was like, shouldn't you be fact checking all of those or checking who all of them are? And I guess in an ideal world, yes, but in real life and in general, I'm not going to do a deep dive background check of every single person I ever see on Twitter and Instagram.
It wasn't all fun and games though. As Stonetoss's work continued to gain notoriety, his art started to appear in the possession of individuals that went on to commit serious crimes. For example, Stonetoss would find his comic under the microscope in 2022, after 18-year-old Peyton Gendron murdered 10 black people in a racist attack in Buffalo, New York. Prior to the shooting, Peyton published a 700-page web diary detailing his evolution from edgelord teenager to mass murderer. He also wrote a 180-page-long manifesto full of conspiracy theories and memes, including a few comic strips from Stonetoss, most notably one claiming that races were different levels of intelligence and behavior. Dad, why do dogs look so different? Because of their breed, son. Why are some so big and some so tall? Their genes, of course. And why are there some clever and others not? Purely economic factors. On another occasion, 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia opened fire at a shopping mall in Allen, Texas, killing 8 people and wounding half a dozen more. Mauricio didn't leave behind a manifesto or document explaining why he was going to carry out this attack. However, he did leave behind a substantial digital footprint on a Russian social media website. Garcia regularly posted memes under the name Psychovision that included a Stonetoss edit. Behold our newest ad campaign, and then a big swastika. It was only a matter of time before the ADL labeled him a far-right illustrator. There was an influx of negative press for anyone associated with the cartoonist. In 2020, he drew fan art for self-described journalist Andy No, who said it as a Twitter banner. This sparked a massive backlash, leading to its silent removal. Stonetoss's community was also banned off of Reddit and Discord. With that in mind, Stonetoss tried to distance himself from the alt-right. That included wiping his more overtly racist comics. As part of this, he wrote a long defense on the page about his website, arguing he simply made transgressive art. To many, this probably wasn't very convincing, but I think it's worth concluding given the context. I am not a national socialist, fascist, alt-right, or any kind of supremacist. My crime may be worse, however. I make transgressive art. In my defense, cartooning has a long tradition of slaying society's sacred cows. Its practice predates the United States itself. My work is similar to those often featured by Charlie Hebdo, published in the New York Times and shown on Family Guy, all famous non-Nazis. I have also featured works from other artists, including multiple artists of color. I would make a very hypocritical Nazi indeed. With such infamy, it's perhaps unsurprising there was a vested interest in uncovering Stonetoss's identity. For a long time, many were convinced he was actually an artist named Shmorky with a new persona. Shmorky started off making comics and shorts for the site Something Awful. He got a following on Tumblr before landing professional gigs with Adult Swim. However, the artist disappeared in 2017 after being exposed for having inappropriate conversations with minors. The theory is that Shmorky disappeared, he secretly became right-wing, and made a new alias. It's worth clarifying that the two are not actually related at all beyond stylistic similarities. Many pointed out his characters look similar to a species Shmorky created called Clurfs. Stonetoss would end up embracing this, reversing the first and last letters for an NFT series called Flurks in 2021. Each of these NFTs depicted characters from his comics, but with randomized clothing and accessories like Confederate flags and MAGA hats. These creations were listed for 1 Ethereum each, roughly $2,350 at the time. Shockingly, the entire collection sold in 22 minutes, earning Stonetoss roughly $2 million, before OpenSea caught wind of what he was selling, who he was, and decided to ban him from the platform. That wasn't before getting the Quartering and Ricky Berwick their own custom flirks. Fun fact, he actually reached out to me for a custom GFM flirk back in the day, but I respectfully declined. As I saw coming, the collaboration led some to label the creators involved Nazis, although this failed to pick up with the broader internet. Honestly, I think they just wanted to make some money off the crypto wave at the time. With that out of the way, the prevailing theory most had for Stonetoss's past traces back to another political cartoonist who went by the name Red Panels. Launched in 2015, Red Panels described itself as the Red Pill in webcomic form. It held similar racist, anti-Semitic, and white nationalist views. These comics were a lot more overt in their ideology. They actually suffer from the same problems as many of his copycats, over-explaining the joke. Checking your privilege daily is necessary for straight white cis men like yourself, because you need to know how you benefit from society's expectations of you when other people do not. So you're telling me that because of inextricable attributes of myself, people view me as being more intelligent, likable, competent, trustworthy, capable, and attractive than other people unlike me? Yes! The artist quickly gained some prominence in the alt-right, even being shared by Richard Spencer. Spencer even appeared in several comics, with one arguing it was unfair to call him a white supremacist. We're live interviewing Richard Spencer, leader of white supremacists. Well, actually, my preferred pronouns are white identitarian or maybe white nationalist.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Red Panels produced 370 comics over 18 months, until the site came to an abrupt end on February 27, 2017. Red announced his retirement via a comic strip depicting his character dropping into a molten vat before stretching his hand outward. The description attributes this to needing a better paying career, while narrowing his location to Texas. Red Panels has been the most fun project I have ever undertaken, though it is not the only one I plan to. Producing free comics for you have been immensely rewarding, but future endeavors require the funds that a proper career would provide. If you are privy to a position in the Houston area concerning tech sales or CCNA recipients in April, I'd appreciate a heads up. Following this, Red Panels largely faded into obscurity. However, 4 months later, a new comic titled Stonetoss debuted online. Many noted a striking similarity between the art styles and writing to Red's later comics. For example, characters from both Red Panels and Stonetoss often featured horizontal and vertical lines on their faces and shared hairstyles. Red even acknowledged his art style similarities to Shmorky. LOL, nobody realized I was Shmorky the whole time. In fact, many Stonetoss strips were slight revisions to early work by Red Panel. The similarities led someone to make a chart breaking down the percentage of overlapping opinions. It does appear to track the beliefs of a single person, and some have even claimed their voices sound alike. Let's play a clip of Red Panel speaking in 2016 in a debate with Sargon of Akkad.
I guess it started out with just plain libertarianism and an appreciation for individual rights.
And this is a clip of Stonetoss speaking on the Kill stream back in 2018.
I appreciate the comparison, but I'm not going to try to steal Red Panel's thunder. We've spoken, but I don't want to give away too much about his position. I don't know what I can share about that.
He actually tried to hide this interview for years, getting cold feet. He even had the copyright holder DMCA any re-uploads of it. However, the most convincing similarity is perhaps the most bizarre. You see, Stonetoss has dozens of comics about circumcision. He even promoted a documentary on the subject, calling it the largest human rights violation of our time. Incidentally, I also helped fund the Kickstarter for the movie, and I'm proud to see that it is already topping the charts on Amazon. Worth every penny. As it turns out, the first ever Red Panels cartoon is about circumcision, with Jewish vampires being a reoccurring mutual theme. This would end up being a huge lead for those trying to uncover his identity, which culminated in early 2024. On March 12th, the Anonymous Comrades Collective and late-night anti-fascists claimed to have discovered the cartoonist's real identity. This 99-tweet thread received more than 13 million views, exposing conclusive links between Stonetoss, Red Panels, and the suspect in question. Their search began with a Reddit AMA done by Red Panels in 2016. Red provided background information including his job as a private security guard and his past on the image board 8chan. That included an exchange reminiscing on the site's first birthday. Haven't seen Mark since the first 8chan B-Day party. Nice dude. This led them to a New York Magazine article from 2014 covering the very event. The author describes an enormous bald man named Hans, who flew in from Texas. If you recall, Red Panels referenced living in Houston. This is where anti-fascists started using leaked information. Through information leaked in the infamous Gab data breach, they connected his personal email address to an account named Scythe001. This immediately caught their attention, as several Reddit accounts using variations of that name were very active promoters of Stonetoss cartoons. Scythe001 shared many personal details that aligned with Red Panels. He was in Texas, worked as a private security guard, and used to live in the state Hans went to college. They also discovered Hans' previous work at a literal soy company. But what sealed the deal was the user's fixation on circumcision. They discovered literally hundreds of comments on the subreddit, including one that mirrored the very first Red Panels cartoon. The appearance of the penis is permanently altered. Many considered it a disfigurement. The reasons for not wanting to be circumcised are more than sensation alone. Congratulations on being happy about it, really. I wish I was. For me, it was destruction. A permanent scar from what I think is an otherwise beautiful and natural-looking instrument of intimacy. My circumcision? Only thing I wasn't able to fix, nor will I ever be able to. I like the look of a natural penis. He even donated to the first and only foreskin regeneration company in the world. My feelings about my own circumcision have been nearly as suicidalic. Part of the way I manage this is by exercising what level of control I have as a regular 4gen donor. That's all to say that the links between Stonetoss, Red Panels, and this so-called Hans seem conclusive. It wasn't long until they spotted his name across old YouTube live streams and even reviews for the app Gab. While most of his information had been wiped, they found he worked at an IT company shortly after Red Panels ended. He was part of a delegation that went to Japan in May of 2019. At the exact same time, Stonetoss made the following tweet. Finally made it to the ethno-state, fellas. Holy shit, I just realized you can drop the N-word in Japan and nobody cares. While I'll conceal his full identity and name for this video, the reason I bring it up at all is because the most shocking part of this reveal is the fact that Stonetoss, often accused of being the internet's most notorious white supremacist, was in fact Latino. Following the release of this massive thread, Stonetoss began trending with widespread ridicule and mockery. There was an influx of memes, mainly about his purportedly non-white heritage. It sparked a debate about the ethics of doxing, though most weren't sympathetic. Stonetoss immediately took to Twitter asking for anyone with a direct connection to Elon Musk to help in burying his dox. One of you has a direct line to Elon Musk, and you need to use it. I'm too obstinate to be intimidated out of anything, but I realize my temperament is something that less than 1% of people have. If Elon's idea of a free speech website is one where people can be intimidated into silence, the outcome will be a site where the Stasi will drive out all dissent. This transition to a monoculture is already underway. I will stay to the end, of course, but I am an outlier, not the mean. If he needs a short list of the worst offenders, that can be easily provided. While Stonetoss's identity spread like wildfire, in a controversial move, Elon obliged. Just hours after the thread was posted, the perpetrators were indefinitely suspended. He also banned anyone posting the Cartoonist's real name before updating the site's privacy policy to specify that users cannot share the identity of an anonymous user, such as their name or media depicting them without that person's permission. This decision was met with great uproar, as prior there had been no such considerations when right-wing accounts comparably targeted LGBTQ people. The ordeal was eventually covered by NBC, who wrote, Stonetoss's X account posted this week that they had been wrongly labeled a Nazi, and they said they were making money off of the dispute by selling plushie dolls online. Black Enterprise even cited this as an example of events related to X's moderation that preceded the World Bank's decision to pull its advertising from the platform. If there was any doubt left over his views, a week later logs surfaced from his official Telegram. The first message from Stonetoss was a misspelled greeting, hello. The second message was also from Stonetoss. It was a single uncensored slur and nothing else. The N-word. From this point on, the chat room is filled with Stonetoss comics and almost exclusively virulent comment responses from other chat room members. Stonetoss's community excessively uses slurs for black people, LGBTQ+ people, disabled people, and Jewish people multiple times on a daily basis. Oftentimes, slurs are practically the only form of communication in the chat logs. Ultimately, Stonetoss was able to survive this expose, with his account now sitting at just under 500,000 followers. In conclusion, it's clear that Stonetoss is a creative individual with a knack for cartoons and commentary. That's perhaps the weirdest part of all of this. Stonetoss might be the most famous web cartoonist of all time. Whether you recognize his name or not, you've likely seen his work. They've been modified to express different opinions than the original. Lefty Stonetoss, Antifa Stonetoss, Wholesome Stonetoss. Stonetoss in general has become a meme template often used across various platforms. It's not like the art is bad either, just the commentary is what's divisive. During my brief interaction with the Cartoonist a few years back, I pointed out to him that he was clearly talented and didn't have to be such an edgelord to get attention for himself. At the time, he seemed perceptive to my idea, as it would definitely tone down the stress of people trying to go after him, but at the end of the day, I just don't think he can help himself. In the end, Stonetoss has created something larger than himself, an art style and format that have been co-opted by a variety of voices, sometimes far removed from the original. This strange form of popularity, where his work is both embraced and reworked by those he might disagree with, speaks for the inherent power of his visual storytelling. However, it highlights a missed opportunity. If Stonetoss were to focus less on edgy narratives, his impact could be far more enduring. Instead, he remains trapped in a cycle of controversy, leaving behind a legacy that is as divisive as his content.